Hello everyone, in this video I'll be going through the basic animation that we can perform in Blender. As a civil engineer, I really find this useful because we can model our structures in Blender and we can apply this rigging and animation in Blender so that we can visualize how the beams or the columns interact when any external forces is applied to that structures. So let's get started with a basic scene of Blender where there's a cube in our origin. Let's go to our front view, zoom out so that we can see the grids. Scale, lock the scale down to x-axis and then increase it to almost here, also almost like a 1-2 meter of the structural beam here. Now there's a two-way we can deform this beam. We can either apply a modifier, a simple deform, or we can do a rigging and animation. Since I will be exporting this model to Unity game engine, the Unity game engine does not support the modifiers that we apply in Blender, so there is no smooth animation, or even let's say the deformation would not show up in Unity even if we apply, or even if it's showing up in Blender. So what I found here was we do actually need to perform the rigging. So what rigging is actually is in the Blender or in any other animation software is the process of creating some sort of the layout or formwork for the moving 3D objects. It defines how the various parts of a model moves in relation to other parts of the same 3D objects. To do that, first we add an armature. You can see something added up, so it's actually inside that model. To get that model in our front view, we go to this object data properties, go to viewport display and click in front. If you do this, no matter what view you are in, the armature is always in front of the 3D objects, right? Now this is an armature. It is the bone. It means it is a single bone in Blender. It has three parts: the head, if you go to edit mode, head, the body, and then the tail. So this is a complete single bone. This bone has three modes: object mode, edit mode, and pose mode. So pose mode is where we use the armature to perform an animation, and we can, if you go to edit mode, we can move this bones to anywhere we want. If we select the top, we can put in any direction we want, right? For this structural beam, when we apply any load, it deforms in a curvature, right? So we need a curvature, and I want this left half to have a bone pointed to this way, and then right half to bones pointed to this way, right? So I go to edit mode. If you are in object mode, you go to select this bone or armature and go to edit mode, hit tab, select the head, press Z, and then scale it that way, right? And like any other 3D objects, for the armature we can also extrude and lock it to X direction. When we do that, you can see if I rotate this beam also gets, or this bone also get deflected or rotated. So when you extrude something, it gets connected with each other, right? So for this one, extrude, capture this, extrude, and extrude. So this point, it doesn't have to be all the way to the end of the beam, because this will cover the whole area around it, right? Now select the beam, copy this and place it on the second half or left half and rotate it 180 degrees. Right, now we have a structural beam and it has some bones. Let's go to object mode and select our beam. For the smoother curves of the beam, because right now it only have like 4 vertices here and 4 vertices here, so whenever you move those beams, it only tries to move or deform these vertices, and there would not be smoother curves of those beams, right? So what you want to do is add more vertices or more poly counts of these objects. To do that, go to object mode, select the beam, go to edit mode, hit Ctrl R and add. I added this vertex now. Now go to object mode. One last step you need to do is select beam, select the bones and Control P. What this does is it sets the beam's parent to the bones and hit the width, automatic width. The armature here is now the parent for this cube, so whenever it moves the cubes as well. Right now, select the bones, go to pose mode. If you rotate this, you can see the beam rotating, right? You can see that. So if you select this, select this, select this, select this, you can see it, right? What you can do is, for a consistent bending, you can do is rotate this, come here, rotate it by like 5 degrees, here rotate it by -5 degrees, and gradually decrease this to like -4, -3. All right, you can see the smoother curves. Cool. Now if you want to animate this, you can go to animation tab, and let's first fix the camera view here. Camera view, okay, here we go. Here's the camera view. So when you come to animation tab, there's two different tabs here. This one's the camera view, this is a layout view, this is the dope state, which is a detailed version of the animation keyframes that you have, and then this is the keyframes summarized, right? So usually the frame rate of 24 per second of the video is good. If you are in 24 frames per second, then in a second you have a 24 frames. So decide how long your animation would be like. So you want the beam to deflect in 2 seconds or 3 seconds. So let's say in this one we want it to happen in 3 seconds, right? Then you can click and drag this timeline, go to 72 frames, that is 3 seconds. Here you already have the position that you want of the beam for the 3rd seconds. Go to layout view, click I, and then keyframe, select all the beams, all the bones, click I, and you can see the keyframes selected, right? Now in the initial, you want all these bones to be at the original position, the straight one. So drag this to the 0, come here, select your bones, hit F3, clear. If you type in clear, you can clear all the transformations, right? So this is the starting position of the beam, and you do the same thing, hit I, or you can come here, key, insert keyframes, all channels. All right, now when you press play, you can see the beams bending, right? So if you put here start 0 and then end is 72, and go to file, export FBX, I'll save it down in here, beam, make sure everything's here. You don't want the camera or lamp, you just want armature mesh, this, and so export. Now if you go to Unity and you want to import new asset, go to here, import the beam. So you can see here in the animation, now you can utilize this bending by adding some loads and then having showing how the beam bends.